right, thank you so much. Joining me now is Doug Clinton, Intelligent Alpha founder and CEO. Doug, how do you think about this? I mean, on the one hand, the consensus estimates for NVIDIA reflect pretty much rock solid confidence in how the next few quarters are shaping up in terms of the capacity constrained build out of the infrastructure. But what about the market's reaction to kind of who's in and who's out along the way?
Mike, NVIDIA is a name we continue to own at Intelligent Alpha. And as a reminder, at Intelligent Alpha, we use the modern large language models to do our stock portfolio analysis, our stock picking. So our models still like NVIDIA. And I think to Christina's earlier point, right now, this whole China thing has gone back and forth for so many months. I remember 6 months ago, we started thinking about this. And I think we were very early to the game thinking that, look, eventually, these chips, the higher end H200s and probably Blackwells eventually will be sold into China. And here we are today still talking about it. It hasn't happened yet. And so I think once we maybe start to see some actual revenue, some actual dollars flow through to the P&L for NVIDIA, maybe that's when the stock finally gets credit for it. But I think heading into 26, the AI trade is still on. It's still intact, in my opinion, and I think we still have a few more years to go in it.
When it comes to, NVIDIA, of course, as I say, the sell side's there. The stock, you've seen valuation compression, pretty much along the way. It's at like 26 times forward earnings. This is going to be, 160 billion in free cash flow in the coming fiscal year. So do you think that's just kind of temporary, or is the market looking ahead to when, of course, inevitably it slows growth off a big base?
The market's probably looking ahead to some extent, but I think there is a challenge of where is the big incremental buyer, right? I mean, indexes obviously are probably helping all of the Mag 7 because they're so overweight, those stocks, but who's the big idiosyncratic sort of incremental buyer for NVIDIA? Do they need to see some of these numbers from China to adjust? Do they need to get a better sense maybe for what the demand is heading into 27? Because if you think about 26, what I think is really interesting is from an AI infrastructure standpoint, demand is off the charts. Micron just a couple of weeks ago was talking about being sold out for the entirety of 26 for HBM. Blackwell's, the demand is huge. You look at the power segment, GE Vernova, they're sold out in turbines for a couple of years. And so I think we need to start to get a sense of what does the demand look like maybe into 27 to get investors to feel a little bit better about that, to be that incremental bidder.
When you say the AI trade is alive, I mean, there's so many iterations of it, or it goes in these waves. So we had, early in the year, the DeepSeek scare. And then later in the year, the market just decided it wanted the, kind of Alphabet, Broadcom ecosystem over the OpenAI, Microsoft side of things. Is that going to continue to be a little bit of a push-pull, or are we going to be able to get some clarity into how the winners shape up from here?
I think next year the big story in AI will be about distribution. So 25, to your point, beginning of the year, I think OpenAI was sort of crowned the undisputed leader. About mid-year, Google released Gemini 2.5, and I think that's where the tables turned a little bit because we finally saw from Google, with all of the tools, all the resources that they have, they finally put out a great model, and now Gemini 3 is also great. Now it's neck and neck. I think those two companies are really the two that are vying for frontier model sort of winner. In 26, I think it's more about how do these models get distributed and actually into users' sort of daily workflows, daily lives. Google does have a good advantage there. So they've got obviously several billion user per day platforms like YouTube, Maps, Gmail, search, of course. And I think OpenAI, the question will be, can they find other good distribution partnerships? Can they maybe broaden the way they work with Apple? Might they do a deal with Amazon? There's been rumors about an Amazon investment. I think that will be kind of what shapes up in the first half. If OpenAI can find some good distribution and really challenge Google, I think that could tell the story between those two sets of stocks that you talked about.